Mike Brown, the former FEMA director.
Joining us here is the former FEMA director.
History, I think, was very unkind to you, my friend. Very unkind.
Mr. Brown, thanks for being with us.
This is Michael Brown Unplugged.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Michael Brown Unplugged. So first, let me say Happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish friends. And then, because there will not be a podcast for the rest of this week, I'm going to take the week off. So happy or Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all of that sort of stuff. And then I'll talk to you a week from today. But here's what I wanted to do for today's podcast. No politics, none of that. Well, there might be some politics because of what all of you have sent in to me. You may recall that, and I should have looked it up before I started recording, but I didn't. About maybe a week or so ago, I did a podcast in which I pretty much asked everybody, what gives meaning to your life? And the whole purpose of that was because behind the scenes, there have been a lot of changes in my life over the past 30 days or so, some of which will become public, some of which will not be public. I've just had some really interesting and really good things happen over the past several weeks. And that's what prompted that podcast, because I had to ask myself some questions. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? It was an interesting time. And so I ask all of you, what gives meaning to your life? And I got a bunch of emails. Now, for those of you that know that you emailed me, one, don't be offended if I don't use your email. Two, don't worry, I'm not going to use your name. And three, even though I might, as I read through some of these, I might not, I might leave a few things out because there are some things in here that you told me that, one, I found incredibly personal, which I appreciate because it really helped me understand where you're coming from. But two, for people that are not, that don't know who you are or would recognize your name, for those that are listening that might, that sounds like so-and-so, I kind of want to keep it anonymous because I didn't ask anybody for permission to give your names out. And so I want to respect that. But I picked out three. I picked out three emails that I want to share with you today because I think, one, it will tell you a little bit about people that are listening to this program, to this podcast. Two, based on the three that I picked out, when you hear some of the details that are in these emails, you'll probably agree, yeah, that was a good email. I'm kind of glad you picked that one out. And three, as we move into Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, all of that, I want you to think about these people's lives. These are people just like you and me that somehow our lives have crossed. They've crossed by virtue of this podcast. They've crossed by virtue of the radio program. Our lives have crossed because maybe we met somewhere in a dog park one time, which that ought to give somebody a hint of, yeah, your email's coming up. And I don't know, I'm going to start with the most lengthy one first. And there's nothing, I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to editorialize or not as I go through these. That's what I'm struggling with. So I think the best way to do is just to get started and just go and see how this turns out. So the first email, hey, Michael, welcome to the club. First, to let you know who I am the guy that sold you a certain gun at a certain gun store. And I'm just going to editorialize here. We met in the parking lot. I think I had mentioned on the radio one time that I was looking for a particular firearm, and this gentleman emailed me and said, yeah, I've got one for sale. Let's meet at such and such gun store, such and such time, and we'll do it. So I wrote up a bill of sale, and we wrote in the serial numbers, and I gave him some cash, and he gave me the gun, and I still have that gun, and in fact, it's one of the guns that I probably shoot most frequently. But then he goes, so I know who this is. Well, in fact, I know virtually all of the people who have emailed me, with the exception of one that I picked out, that I was not familiar with this person. But anyway, so back to this email. So, hey, Michael, welcome to the club. First, to let you know who I am, I'm the guy that sold you blah, 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 blah. Just so summarize my life. I'm 65 years old. I'll turn 66 in February. In general, life has been good. I'm proud of what I've accomplished over the years, but there are still more things that I'd like to get done, and maybe I'll accomplish some of those. See, that's what I love. I truly believe that age is just this chronological mechanism that we have to measure our life, and that what we really should be doing is measuring our life, and not always in accomplishments. I mean, I think about some of the failures that I've had in my life, and those are as important to me as some of the accomplishments are. So I like where this is going. In general, life has been good. I'm proud of what I've accomplished over the years, but there are still some things I'd like to get done, and maybe I will accomplish some of them. I was born in Phoenix. My dad's career took us to several different areas of the country. He was an administrator in the field of developmental disabilities. He lived in Coolidge, in Arizona, until he was 5 years old. He lived in Conway, Arkansas, from 5 until 8 years of age. And I want to point out, without giving too much details, but because of what this listener's dad did, they tended to live on the grounds of public institutions, reservations or state hospitals, or, just trying to make it as general as possible. We moved to Denver in 1962, and he really hated it. I had a Southern accent, and it got me into several altercations. The boys thought it was cute on my sister. I've also lived brief times in Phoenix, Roswell, and Houston. But here he lists 6 accomplishments in his life. Graduated from high school. That was a trick. I survived my teenage years. My first job was as an usher at the Arvada Plaza Theater, making 75 cents an hour. And to this day, he says, that was my favorite job of all time. I had free access to almost every theater in Denver. Then his second job was as an orderly in a nursing home. 34 official years in state unemployment. Unofficial is 40 because he says that as a 20-year-old, he did something stupid and quit for a year. He went into the same field, best I can tell, as the same field that his father worked in. And then number 6 was, I was married for 15 years, and then says sadly that his wife left him and his 3 sons. And at the time, the oldest was 14 and the youngest was 10. The older 2 went through normal teenage stuff. The youngest one went to the dark side, and he actually feared that the youngest would end up in prison or dead. So he joined a group. He joined a support group. And he says that raising the 3 boys alone in that day and age was just a success in itself. That's some good perspective right there. All of these things, he says, brought purpose to my life, and I feel proud of all of them. I'm sure that there are more accomplishments that I just can't think of right now. But he says, I worked hard and I did the best that I could. I got along with people without all the drama, and I let my sons live to become useful citizens with my values. And I think, here's why I picked this particular email out. Not that all of those things were good, but this. And then I took early retirement when I burned out dealing with the issues of being a state government employee. For a full year, I did basically nothing. It felt good. After that first year, I started getting the itch to do something. I started getting some exercise and glancing through the help wanted ads just to see what was out there. And then he stumbled onto a part-time job at a particular office that I won't provide, saying he was doing tech support for the network PCs and users. He says it gave him a place to go several times a week. It gave me a bunch of money that went to pay off bills and have fun, and I had a purpose. I worked there for 2.5 years before I felt like I was back to where I was before I retired. So then he moved to Delta, loved it. Until recently, he had a son living here, But then after a nasty divorce, his son's nasty divorce, she moved back to Denver, and so did he because of the kids, but I'm still happy here. My purpose is in life to have fun. I enjoy my quiet life. I've got a room full of computers and servers that are my hobby. I fish and I camp on the Grand Mesa. I shoot in Grand Junction, but not as much as I want to. I went to front sight shooting school in Arizona for a week, and while I came back with swollen and bloody fingers, it was a blast, so to speak. And then, again, I don't want to get too personal here, but he's now seeing, he has a girlfriend that he loves very much. And, but it turns out that they've really settled on just being really good and close friends. And he says in parentheses, but there's always hope. He says, although it hasn't all been great, I had an incident in October that as of last week turned out to be bladder cancer. The tumor was removed. The prognosis is good, but still it brings to the forefront my mortality. And from that, he goes to this, which I don't think is a mistake. I have 6 grandkids, ages 5 to 15, that I love and get to visit several times of the year. I'm proud of my boys and their accomplishments in their lives. None of them have ever come close to depending on anything from the government. They are all self-driven and productive, and then I love this, of course, and conservative in nature. There will always be more in my life that I want, but you can't have everything. I'm satisfied with what I've done and how I've dealt with my life, and my purpose is to now enjoy what I've earned and continuing to be a good parent and a good grandpa. I think that's pretty darn good. He goes on to list some of the places that he's been to and traveled to and visited. I think that's a great email. It's a fantastic email. The next one comes from someone that I didn't know. And I'm probably going to do this one word for word. I'm behind on your podcast, so I just now heard your December 4 show. I'm a 59-year-old woman and one of those overachievers. I have a 12-acre farm for 20 years and a bookkeeping business for 25 years. I also read a lot, love cooking, travel, studying history. My family jokes that I am the Energizer Bunny on steroids. A boring life would be the death of me. But I realized about 10 years ago, I had to teach myself to just let go and relax, to just enjoy doing nothing for short periods of time. It has been so good for me to soak in the harvest of the life I built and to dream about what else I want to do. 9 months ago, I met my sweetheart after 10 years of being single. What a huge, wonderful change it's been. Anyway, right from the beginning, he has talked a lot about retiring from a job that he's had for 20 years and just enjoying life. I wondered if I was crazy because I never ever think about retiring. So, she writes, I let myself honestly think about it and not just dismissing the idea. I learned that I love my job so much that this year I gave up clients that I didn't want to work with anymore, and I got new ones that are going to be a huge challenge. I planned out a total remodel of my kitchen with myself doing a lot of the work. I want to love the space that I spend so much time cooking in. I did a DNA test and found out that I'm 35% Irish. I had no idea. So I did deep research and uncovered a side of my father's family that nobody knew about, the Irish side. Even found a broken down castle in the blank name. Ooh, almost slipped there. So I now have a plan to go there in 2021 and walk where my ancestors walked. I learned that living my life to the fullest and dreaming big gives me energy and passion. I don't beat myself up if something doesn't work out or if I let go of things that just aren't working. I sat blank down, the sweetheart, and explained to him that I'm never going to retire from my life. And if that's what he is looking for in a gal, I'm not it. Well, he's still here, and he's still figuring out his next steps, but I see a happier energy in him than when we first met. He is talking about trying new things and going to new places, so maybe I have infected him with my attitude. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think you have. So what brings meaning to my life is enjoying the small things and going for the big things. I have been following you for years on the radio and love listening to your thoughts. You teach me so much and make me think. I hope whatever you figure out is your next meaningful thing will include all of us who value you so much. Merry Christmas and Happy New Possibilities Year. It's a fantastic email. No comments needed. And then the last email I picked. Michael, I hope this email finds you well. I first want to let you know that somebody and I missed connecting with you and Greta the Leonberger at the dog park. Well, you should know we still go. I was there Sunday. It was a beautiful day, there for about 2 hours. I actually thought I saw you guys and was hoping it was you, but it wasn't. But we'll make contact again. And then she writes, I wanted to give you my 2 cents. And she's kind of a smart aleck like I am. This is why we hit it off at the dog park. I want to give you my 2 cents. Remember, you asked regarding the crossroad you seem to be at in life and next steps. I have thought a lot about it, actually. I care. This seems strange to be doing this through email because I would prefer to be having a face-to-face conversation. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the satisfaction you feel when you mentor, counsel, and teach people. In all caps, the word "that" is what I think you should be pursuing. I think you have the gift of exhortation and encouragement. Your radio program, and even more so your podcast, played a crucial role in my returning to school to complete my college degree. Wow. I mean, she had told me that before, but reading it, like in black and white, gee. I did not want to be another useful idiot. You see, she does listen. I did not want to be another useful idiot. Due to your exhortation, I have learned to think more critically. In fact, I recently found an email I sent you back in 2016 telling you that exact same thing, and that's before I got to meet you in person. So in my opinion, you're on the right track. You are an influencer. I can't tell if you should keep doing it on the grand scale with your radio program, podcasts, or the Situation with Michael Brown. That's my new brand that we're breaking out first of the year. Or if you should be focusing more with the one-on-one mentoring, like with your Washington friend from Aspen stuck on the gerbil wheel. Remember, you thought a walk at the dog park would give him perspective? I'm waiting for the invite. You've always got an invite. Bottom line, it's clear that you enjoy and find satisfaction in helping people. Early in my marriage, my husband changed careers. He was successful at his job, but did not see doing what he was doing for the rest of his life. After making the change and getting through the pain that it entailed, he said this, quote, "Square peg, square hole. I have found exactly what I'm supposed to be doing." And it had nothing to do with money. I know that you ask for your listeners to write you and tell you what we would do that gives us satisfaction. Mine? Minding other people's business and helping them sort things out. See, the problem is I hear this in her voice, which makes me laugh. I also want to give you a resource that I highly recommend you look into if you find yourself still unsettled. It's an organization that was founded by Bob Buford. Check out his books too, specifically to help people with exactly what I think you may be wrestling with. Their tagline is, quote, "moving from success to significance," close quote. We have a good friend who was a part of this organization for quite some time. I'd be happy to connect you with him if you would like. And I just want all of you to know the website because I've kind of been digging through it. halftimeinstitute.org. halftimeinstitute.org. Other than reading your Bible more, I have nothing else to say. Blessings, and I hope to see you again soon. Oh, you will. Greta and I'll be at the dog park, and I'll see you-know-who come running up, barking at me, and I'll know it's you. For all the emails that I didn't read, I want to tell everybody how much I appreciated them. They were encouraging. They were insightful. This is a smart group of people that listen to the podcast. And I got to tell you, some of the emails were incredibly, well, not that those weren't, but even more personal than what those emails were. I think the lesson in all of them is, it's kind of like I say on the radio sometimes, just stop. Just stop and look around. Look around, look beyond the technology. Look beyond the traffic. Look beyond everything. And see what you see. I think you'll be amazed. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. And I'll talk to you in a week. Because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take some time off. Thank you for joining me today. Now, be sure and drop me a line if you'd like to comment about these emails. You know you can find me on Twitter at Michael Brown USA. You can find me on Facebook at Michael D. Brown. You can follow the show at Michael Brown Unplugged. Now, you know the deal. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to Michael Brown Unplugged. And it's easy to do. You can do it on the iHeart app, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Google Podcasts. You can actually do it wherever you're listening to the podcast right now. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, I really would appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating and a review. Michael Brown Unplugged is written by me, and it's produced by Right Turn Media. Marketing and social media is done by Whole Crowd. Thanks again for listening to Michael Brown Unplugged. Everybody have a great holiday. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.